Good morning. Today's Friday, October the 20th. And we're outside today because I think, um, I'm getting tired of just being in the office making these videos. So we're back outside. We got Floki with us. He's messing around with a raw bone, frozen raw bone, which are great treats for your dog, by the way. Keeps them busy for quite a while. You just got to watch them, make sure that they're not getting their mouth stuck in the marrow part of the bone. So last week we talked about classical conditioning. You guys remember that? We talked about Ivan Pavlov and the bell and the food and pairing both things, and by doing so, creating a physical reaction in the dog, or some would call something that is this process is working on the parasympathetic nervous system. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a highly educated person on that type of stuff. But all I know is that it does create a physical reaction in the dog. That's why I describe it as such. This week we're going to talk about operant conditioning. Now, what you need to understand about me is I like to, number one, understand the why. A lot of dog training programs don't explain the why to their handlers. So when I got into canine, I kind of wanted to find out what the why was. So I started doing my own research. And through that research, I learned how to train dogs better, right? By understanding the why. You understand theory, and then you apply that theory, right? So, but at the same time, these theories can be a little bit confusing because they were established and written and defined by scientists or people in that community, right? I'm just the layman. I'm just the worker bee, the peasant down here. So I try to understand with these guys of a higher, way higher level of experience or not experience, but education, what they're trying to say. And I try to break it down into an easier way of learning it or knowing it. So, operant conditioning, right? The major points of operant conditioning are there's only four of them, and we've all heard of one of them. You'll have to excuse me if I'm scratching my nose. My allergies are kicking in, or if I'm sniffling. So the four parts of operant conditioning, we all know the major one, or not the major one, but uh, we hear it all the time: positive reinforcement, right? We know what that is basically. But there are three other parts to operant conditioning that we don't talk about a lot, or you don't hear a lot about, um, and that's positive punishment, negative reinforcement, and negative punishment. Right? We got a plane flying overhead, so you might hear that. I, when I was at the sheriff's department, the canine unit office was at Miramar, so that was the worst place to teach because those things were flying overhead constantly, and they were only about, I don't know, a couple hundred feet off the ground, and they were loud. So I didn't, moving where I am now, I didn't escape the jets. Huh. Anyway, so the four parts of operant conditioning: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. Okay. Now, the words that are used are a little bit misleading because the word punishment, we're going to think of it right off the bat as something painful, something aversive to the dog, something the dog doesn't like. And that's not always the case. We understand what positive is, but it doesn't coincide with what the definition of positive is. So I'll break it down really quick and really fast, really easy. When they say positive reinforcement, when they say the word positive, that word means add. It doesn't mean something good. It just means add. And that's where a lot of us get confused, right? So positive equals add. Reinforcement equals uh, to increase behavior, right? Or to increase. Add something to increase. That's positive reinforcement. On the other hand, negative means to remove something And punishment means to decrease, right? So the phrase negative punishment would mean remove something to decrease. And when we're talking about behavior, we're talking about increased behavior or decreased behavior, right? When we're talking about positive, we're talking about add something, probably, well, add something to the behavior in order to increase it or decrease it. And that can be something good or that can be something bad, right? Negative, we're taking something away. We're taking something good away, or we're taking something bad away, or something aversive, right? And I'll get into some examples. Again, we all know positive reinforcement, right? And operant conditioning operates it operates on consequences of actions. So the consequences of the dog's actions, right? Humans learn this way too, right? Our consequences lead to actions, right? Whether they're good or bad. So positive reinforcement. We're going to add something to increase behavior. Now, what does that look like? Well, if you ask the dog to sit and he sits, then we're going to add something that he likes. A treat, toy, or just touching him. That makes sense? And we all do that, right? I mean, even the most basic training class covers that, positive reinforcement. What's positive punishment? Positive punishment, right? So we talked about positive equals add, punishment equals to decrease behavior. Positive punishment is adding something to decrease that behavior. So, for instance, uh, in the human world, you're a kid and you reach in the cookie jar when you're not supposed to. And what happens? Mom comes and slaps your hand, right? That's positive punishment. How does it translate into the dog world or dog training world? The dog does something that he's not supposed to do, and you apply something that is aversive, right? In this case, punishment does equal something that's aversive or something that's um, uncomfortable, right? A lot of dog trainers nowadays use the word pressure. Uh, that's a little bit misleading as far as in some instances, positive punishment means punishment that's aversive in this case. In other words, it's going to be a leash correction. It could be an e-collar stimulation at a higher level. It could just be the handler saying no in an assertive voice. Sometimes, softer dogs will respond to that. Back in the old days, it would have been newspaper rolled up and hit, or a chancla or something being thrown at the dog, right? So that's positive punishment. We're going to add something that's, in this case, aversive to decrease whatever bad behavior the dog was doing. Make sense? Good. All right, now let's get into negative punishment. Negative punishment is what? Taking something away to decrease a behavior. How is this used in dog training? Let's talk about how is it used in our life. And I go back to being kids because that's where we learn all of our initial lessons in life, how to navigate this world, right? Um, you're doing something you're not supposed to do, so you don't get to eat dinner that day, right? You go to your room with no dinner. That's pretty old school. And I can't say that I've ever experienced it. I experienced more positive punishment. um, but you're taking something away that the kid wants because he misbehaved. So you're not physically hurting the person or physically hurting the kid. You're just taking something away that they want. That is negative punishment. Dog training example. If my dog, I have the toy in my hand or food in my hand, and the dog uh, is jumping and acting a fool, I don't give him that food, right? I don't give him that toy. I put it away. I remove it, right? Once it's removed, if he settles down, then he gets it. All right, so we go from positive punishment to positive reinforcement real quick, right? Again, if he's doing something that we don't like, and we take away a reinforcer, something that he finds, rewarding, and that causes that bad behavior to stop, then that is, in that case, he's being negatively punished. Make sense? Okay. The last one, negative reinforcement, that's a little bit confusing. And I have an example which some people in the dog training world would say that it's not a good example of negative reinforcement, but to me it makes sense. And again, we're on layman's terms. We're on peasant terms, right? Worker bee terms. Negative reinforcement, an example in human life is not the doorbell, the seatbelt chime in your car. You get in your car, you sit down, you turn your car on, and the car starts beeping at you, right? Beeping, beep, beep. And nowadays, that thing does not stop. It don't shut up. It just keeps going until you put your seatbelt on and it stops, right? So negative, where are we at? Negative reinforcement, right? We're taking something away or removing something. We're not taking it away. We're removing something in order to increase the behavior. So the only way that aversive or uncomfortable noise is going to stop is if we buckle our safety belt, right? And I know it's not a perfect example, but to me it makes sense. In dog training, we can, let's say the dog is standing next to us and he's actually standing on his four paws. We can pull up on the leash, creating an uncomfortable feeling for the dog on his neck, right? And in order to turn that off, he sits and we let go of our leash pressure, right? Communication through the leash. I pull up, causing tension. He sits down. I let go of the leash. That's negative reinforcement. Okay. So that's basically it in a nutshell. There are some other factors or some other things that go into it. And again, just like classical conditioning, you can go down several different rabbit holes and get really, really deep in the woods on this stuff. And for an example, I said that this is how animals learn, this is how dogs learn, this is how people learn. But if you go deep into it, there's a whole nother section of what drives behavior in the first place. Emotions drive behavior, according to some experts, right? And what emotions do dogs have? That's a question. That's on a whole nother level, right? Um, so yeah, it can be interesting and it can be overwhelming. But if you know those four: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment, you'll have a good grasp of how to solve problems with your dogs. What is being reinforced, understanding what is being reinforced and how to change it. And I also wanted to do this because I wanted to let people understand or help people understand that the word punishment doesn't always mean something aversive, doesn't always mean something painful. It could just be removing that dog from removing a toy, food, removing him from a situation. Um, it's not always physical pain, right? Negative reinforcement doesn't have to be physical pain. Could it be a little uncomfortable? Sure. Could it be like somebody pinching you? Sure. They pinch you for you get away. That's negative reinforcement. Um, so I hope that made sense. I know it's a little bit sciencey, and most people are, man, just show me how to do it, and I'll do it. I don't need that explanation. Just show me what to do, and that's fine. I can do that, or your trainer can do that. But what happens 6 months down the road when problems arise, problems come up, and you don't know how to fix it? Understanding these concepts will help you a little bit with how to fix it. Now, obviously, you have to really kind of immerse yourself in this stuff and want to understand it. And, you may be able to regurgitate it, but not understand it, right? So, I think that's it. I mean, my videos go long for whatever reason. I talk too much. But this is something that can go on for, shoot, you can talk about this for days, right? You know, people take college courses on this stuff. They get degrees in this stuff, and I try to break it down in 15 minutes. That's kind of difficult. So yeah, that's it for now. Floki's been doing good, and I think when he turns 6 months, I'll do a recap or a review video and talk about what he's learned and where we're at. Things are a little bit slow going with him, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, that's it. I will talk to you soon. I know last week I said that I was going to do a garage knowledge video, and I flaked because it was kind of a messed up day last week, and I'll try to get it done later on this evening and upload it to YouTube and see what happens there. So anyway, I'm going to boogie and get my day started, and I will talk to you guys later.